Welcome again, everyone. To follow up from yesterday on our election process, we're going to let you all know what's happening here in just a moment. Each of our two candidates for Secretary Treasurer will be given 3 minutes. I'm going to add a little added element to this. I'm going to flip a town and country card to decide who goes first. So Charleston, would you like the town and country side or the one with the funny quotes on the back? The quotes on the back. All right. It is the one with the quotes on the back. Would you like to go first or second? Okay, great. So we'll have Ms. Madison up here for just a moment for 3 minutes, and then Mr. Carter after her for 3 minutes. What you will then receive a little bit later this morning will be an email. Please note that that will go to the email that you registered for this conference. So check that mail, make sure it doesn't go into spam. We'll open up the voting when you receive that email. There will be a link in it. You will have 2 questions. One will be for you to type in your name. That is for purposes of verifying that you are a current member. Please note that per Robert's Rules of Order, we are treating this as a secret ballot, which means that only those in association services will be verifying the name. We, the rest of us, will have no information about how anyone individually voted. Then the second question will be for you to choose and vote for your choice of Secretary Treasurer, either Charleston Carter or Tina Madison. We will keep voting open until Thursday morning. Just after the announcements, we will give a 5-minute warning to when the voting will close so that we can do the final tally and present that as we go back into our business meeting on Thursday. So without further ado, we'll bring up Ms. Madison, and when you begin, I will start the timer.
I almost wore my NACM swag. Thank you all for allowing me to present to you today. 33 years ago in Santa Ana, California, I was a young college student whose scholarship had ended, so I began looking for work. I landed in the clerk's office in the file room in Orange County. 3 courts and 2 states later, I found myself in Arizona as the deputy court administrator working for juvenile court. Working my way up, I gained experience in a variety of case types, getting a strong foundation for court operations. And I continued to finish my degree. And when I graduated, I found I had a passion for both working as a public servant and continuing my education. So I started my master's in public administration. I eventually went on to become an ICM fellow. But after my master's, I really looked around to find a way to continue to grow as a professional, and that's when I found the National Association for Court Management. It was really NACM that offered me guidance and steadfast guidance throughout my formative years as a career professional. I've been a member since 1992, and 8 years ago, I looked to the mentor program to help me grow again as a court professional. It was Marcus that really provided me with a background to say, hey, you have enough information to share with others. And that's when I decided to give back. Helping others like myself, the 20-somethings, 30-somethings, maybe even the 40-somethings, who are trying to work their way through the court profession. I guess that's why I'm so passionate about membership and our early career professionals. I want our organization to grow our early career professionals and take them to that next level. So what qualifies me for the Secretary Treasurer position? Currently, in my role as Deputy Court Administrator, I have a direct oversight of a $23 million budget. And that's given me the understanding of what it's like to be responsible for public funds. And I can be a good steward for NACM's finances. I have grant writing management skills that I can bring to the table to find ways to help the organization increase and expand our education, as well as provide some cost benefit to the members. I've written articles for the court manager, as well as worked on strategic planning for both my court and assisted past presidents in the strategic planning for NACM for our future and listening to members and what the members need and want for the organization. As an administrator for the LinkedIn page, I help the NACM get the word out on social media. And I found that there are over 300,000 judiciary employees that are out there that we have not tapped into. And that's something I'd like to see our organization move forward. I know what it's like to be a member and a court professional looking for assistance. I want to reach out to others. It's not just about a skill set. It's about a passion for the work that NACM does. Working together to make justice work is not just a swag on a t-shirt. It's about what we do as court professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. And now we have Charleston Carter from the District of Columbia.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my hope all is well with each of you, and you find yourselves in good condition. First, I want to thank the nomination committee for interviewing Ms. Madison and me. And thank you, nomination committee, for advancing my name for the members of NACM to consider. There is something that I have to think about when I speak to NACM members, and that is a theme. And that theme is this. It is talent, gifts, and treasure. What talents and gifts and treasures do I have? Let me explore with you my background of 27 years in court administration. I have served as the circuit court administrator, trial court administrator, deputy director for the Washington, D.C. court system, and director of case management. Within that, I have served in all capacities from juvenile court, state court, as well as district court and superior court. All of them consisted of a budget in which I had to adhere to the policies and keep a watchful eye so no penny goes unturned. With that being said, I made another transition of being the servant leader that I am. I had the opportunity to be the president of United Way, but before I became the president of United Way, I served as its treasurer. Before I came the president of the leadership chair for the Chamber of Commerce, I served as their treasurer. Before I served on the community outreach for Valdosta State University, I served as their treasurer. I have a wealth of experience as relates to keeping a watchful eye on monies, and I know how to create the necessary dashboards in terms to report back to our grateful constituents. When we talk about talents, did I mention to you that I have a background in fundraising? Matter of fact, as it relates to Valdosta State University, I was so impressed with my English professor that I created an endowment for her, and I raised that money in record time. If I'm selected as your treasurer and secretary for NACM, I too can create that same atmosphere. I too can raise the necessary monies for us. Matter of fact, have we considered creating an endowment for NACM? We talk about giving scholarships. Why not invest in something that will be able to generate scholarships for our members, for those who cannot pay? Let us map out a blueprint. Let's not be about the talk, but let's do the walk. And that's what I'm all about. I mentioned yesterday, how can you high jump if the bar is set low? Well, I don't set the bar low, I set them high. Therefore, I expect an organization like NACM to always high jump. And as it relates to my treasure, that is giving back. I gave back to the organization a long time ago, 13 years. And how I did that is I watched with a keenful eye to see what the organization was doing. And from that, I wanted to join, and I became the chair of the communications committee. Did I tell you before the pre-pandemic, NACM, of course, being great stewards of your money? But because of my background in raising money, I wanted to reach out to the small and large companies that may want to offer a webinar. I'm grateful to stand before you and say that those webinars that you were able to review, those webinars came from me advocating strongly on your behalf. I will do that same thing as it relates to being your treasurer and secretary. I want to end by saying this. If you do your best, and you always do your best, when you no longer can carry your best will carry you. It is my hope that my best carry you to vote for me with a vote of confidence when you select the best person for this position. Thank you so much for listening with a sensitive ear.
I can't wait for the mic drop on Thursday when get to pass the gavel. Thank you, Charleston, and thank you, Tina, and thank you for both giving an impassioned plea to our members. Again, a reminder, you'll be sent an email to the email address that you registered for the conference a little bit later today, and voting will be open till Thursday morning. So please look for that. If you don't see it by tomorrow, feel free to stop by registration and verify the address that they used and make sure that that did not go into your spam account. First, let me apologize to the folks who are supposed to be on the stage in just a few minutes from Tyler Technologies. Hopefully they'll give us a little bit of leeway. We'll make sure that we still get you out relatively on time to take a few minutes before we go into our next sessions today. Just to kind of put this in context for those who aren't aware of this. Several years ago, we created the Voice of the Profession survey. It was an annual attempt to reach out to you, our members, to hear from you what you think is going on in the realm of court management and court managers, to hear your voice. That voice then transitioned into an annual State of the Profession address that we've given for the last several years. And I will be delivering that today. So I ask that you sit back, relax for a few minutes, put your thinking caps on, and listen in on what you, our members, have to say about the state of the profession. So welcome, everyone, to the beautiful San Diego and the NACM 2021 Annual Conference. It was 2 years ago that we last had the chance to be together like this, and obviously a lot has happened since then. This year's conference theme is Justice for All, Courts at the Crossroads. It is safe to say that our lives have been upended and many members of our profession have faced unprecedented challenges this past year. We are now at a point in terms of the pandemic where we can see the light at that proverbial long, dark tunnel. As a country, we have been forced to confront the racial injustices endured by our Black, brown, and Asian communities. We are quite literally at a crossroads of converging pathways. Do we turn back and return to the ways of old, or do we press forward, and if so, what direction? It is through our hard work and dedication to the principles of justice that we will pick the right path, and today I will talk about those 4 paths. First, court professionals must actively be committed to equal justice under the law and ensuring that our practices, procedures, and policies and programs do more than just pay lip service. And are we honestly evaluating ourselves as a system and responding to our shortcomings, or are we continuing to operate in ways that merely reinforce systemic injustices? Second, pandemic aside, this past year has seen our institutions in the spotlight. From protests to cyber attacks, the toll has been great. Can we assure our court users, staff, and stakeholders that their property, and their information is secure? Third, the focus on racial and social justice has caused a lot of us to look at our courts and even NACM as an organization. Do we look like the communities we serve in terms of our benches and our administrative makeup? Is the diversity of our membership accurately reflected in our board and committees and the programs we offer? Lastly, as our courts across the country are slowly opening back up, do we continue to face the concerns about access to justice? As a profession, we've responded admirably to continue the business of administering the justice, but have we done enough? We'll explore these a little bit further. Racial justice. We all know as the judicial branch of government that our courts are responsible for resolving disputes impartially. After all, that is a purpose and responsibility of the courts. Our court users should be confident that we administer justice and services equitably, regardless of race. However, studies have confirmed that our laws and processes often distinguish between those who are economically advantaged and the poor. and these distinctions are even more noticeable between race and color. Racial discrimination of any kind contradicts the principles of justice and equal protection under the law. Are we overlooking our fundamental processes and purposes of protecting individuals against the arbitrary use of government power? Are we rehabilitating individuals convicted of crimes? And are we overall promoting justice? These are our purposes. Achieving these for some people at the expense of others is not justice. And it reveals the presence of systemic racially discriminatory practices. For example, our folks here in California, through the California Standards of Judicial Administration, has called upon its courts to prohibit bias through integrity and partiality of individual judges and throughout the more extensive court system, to include counsel, court personnel such as ourselves, witnesses, parties, jurors, and other participants. Even so, the courts here in San Diego have announced as of August of 2020 the formation of a committee to maintain a courtroom environment free of bias and the appearance. One of the highly publicized cases of recent times is the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The 9-minute and 29-second video has left an indelible footprint in the minds of many throughout the world. Derek Chauvin, a former police officer, was recently convicted of murdering George Floyd during the commission of his job. The case went forward in Hennepin County District Court. The world was given a bird's-eye view of the judicial process in real time, and justice was meted out. Hopefully, confidence in the court process, the judicial process as we know it, was restored at least a bit. For us as court professionals, we know the hard work and the judge and staff throughout the court who handled one of the most visible trials in recent memory, complete with masks, plexiglass shields, social distancing, and more. To put it bluntly, though, racial justice erodes public confidence in the laws and institutions created to protect and serve the community. To maintain and foster trust in our system, we as court professionals must examine the deficiencies in our system and create steps to correct and transform the approach to systemic racism. Court security. Our courts have taken and been tasked with responding to multiple challenges and threats simultaneously. Some have been through natural causes, while others are created by bad actors. One of these man-made threats is targets to our court information infrastructure. These cyber attacks to courts and local governments come with a steep price tag for recovery. One urban court suffered such an attack that took nearly a year to recover properly and sufficiently access their data. To thwart these attacks and meet this challenge head-on, we must continue to invest in state-of-the-art cybersecurity. Criminal cyber activity is growing exponentially, which means the threat and risk your court faces each day is also growing. I'm reminded of a television ad from the 1980s regarding a product promoting preemptive mechanical repair. The punchline to the ad was, "You can pay me a little now, or you can pay me a whole lot more later." So when address any emerging threat, be it to our data systems or our brick and mortar court facilities, and those who work inside the facilities, your staff, we must work with state and local officials to collaborate and address each threat. Forums by court officials, including court security, for planning and security must be paramount. For example, Pennsylvania recently developed its nation's first compulsory statewide incident reporting system of all general and limited jurisdiction courts. The system provides the ability to electronically report security incidents which occur at the local court level, including court users, staff, such as judicial threats, disorderly court users, and medical emergencies. This pandemic has provided us an opportunity to review and test our COOP and emergency planning procedures, and in turn, find ways to ensure that we continue to operate and serve the public. We must continue to be agile and responsive, whether adopting new technologies, allowing work from home, etc. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Many courts have begun to address diversity, equity, and inclusion in their courts. Training is pivotal to this process, to recognize biases and systemic and inequitable processes. Courts across the country are now offering implicit bias training to court staff and judges, and brokering conversations on the intersection of race and justice. In addition, many courts have formed minority concerns committees and provide designated personnel in their courts to facilitate access to information by court users to navigate forms, obtain records, and understand court procedures. As court professionals, we must embrace the acknowledgement of our biases and work personally and collaboratively to address them. NACM as a whole has been addressing this as well. In 2020, we adopted a resolution to pursue and support DEI in our membership in our executive board service, to actively promote diversity and inclusion in our educational offerings, trainings, webinars, and social media platforms, to continue to lead the national access to justice efforts, and to undertake an internal review to ensure that our practices internally reflect DEI. In the past year, we have created a special committee to set the path we must follow upon and to maintain that course. I am proud to say that as of this past weekend's board meeting, we have made that special committee a standing committee and will task it in continuing our efforts. Additionally, we are continuing our core to ensure the integration of DEI principles into the learning objectives that it sets forth. We are also currently working on a partner project with several other partners of #WeToo in the courts with the support of the State Justice Institute that will develop curricula for court and judge leaders to focus on awareness and responses to sexual and gender-based harassment in the courts, including those around LGBTQ. Like much of the work we do, we have to stay the course and implement DEI into our lives and in our profession. I encourage you to lend your voice to our organization and to your court locally to put forth initiatives embracing those principles. Court access. In a very dramatic and a comprehensive fashion, the pandemic changed access to court services, perhaps permanently, and we hope for the better. A myriad of case events may now be handled virtually: traffic, small claims, probate, early jury service, domestic matters, and more. Of course, remote hearings may not be appropriate for all court events, but nonetheless, they have allowed the courts to continue to operate this past year. Another benefit is that some, especially those of limited jurisdictions, have seen an increase in appearance rates for virtual events. As conscientious court managers, as we all are, one of the things we always want to achieve is to make our courts more convenient and accessible to our users. Efforts by you all in this past year and in response to the pandemic have been inspiring. With that said, as with any change, there are always two sides to the coin. Largely shuttered courthouses and a move to remote proceedings have highlighted the digital divide. Courts did try to meet this need. Rooms were set up in courthouses to allow litigants to participate in remote events. Jurors were loaned devices to use at home. Many moved from walk-ins to scheduled appointments and scheduled hearings. And undoubtedly, the list of adaptations that you all have done locally go on and on. However, the digital divide still exists. There are also some concerns that individuals, such as victims of crime, have been underserved during the crisis, most notably domestic violence and child abuse victims. This past year has been difficult for such victims to be heard and to make it to court and to obtain the necessary access to services. An additional area of concern that has predated the pandemic is citizens with mental health concerns engaging with law enforcement. There have been several tragic situations in this area that have received national attention. Thankfully, the criminal justice system has not only been awakening to this issue, but we in the courts have been leaders in developing responses, but much more still needs to be done. To provide access to justice for these individuals, we must continue to work with law enforcement, treatment providers, and other partners to integrate mental health assessments and access to services. Truly, the current status of access to courts is a bit of a mixed bag. While we have some tools available now and some that we have never really fully utilized, there's still much work to be done. I and NACM call on you, our members of this fine association, to pledge to fully utilize all tools we have and that others have developed. We must devise viable solutions for those with technology, needs, and other limitations. Until everyone has convenient access to court services, we are not finished in our mission. I hope that all of you in this great profession, my calling, your calling, the reason we're all here today, can take a moment to reflect on this past year. We've lost loved ones, we've experienced tragedy, and we've seen some great work that you all have done. But as a profession, we have the opportunity to address systemic injustices, to confront attacks on our infrastructure, to find ways to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive, and ultimately to provide more access to justice. In short, I urge you to take heed of the words of Rahm Emanuel that said, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste." And by that I mean this is an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. Our profession is a profession of people, like me, like you, like everyone back home. Take action. Lend your voice to the discussion. Be heard. We will be sending out a link to the Voice of the Profession survey again this year. Please take the time. Let us know that what we as a profession and that we as NACM need to be a part of and focus on, and let your voice be heard, and share that voice loudly and engage in the discussion. Thank you all.